After reporting a loss of around 13 billion US dollars in the first half of the year, Renault is entering what many people say is crisis mode. I'm hearing this everywhere. Renault's in trouble, Renault's in trouble. It's a common theme. Is Renault really in trouble? Well, they are going to fire 3,000 staff. Does that mean the company is in a position that is similar to Nissan's? Well, here's what I think. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Renault plans to cut 3,000 jobs, and apparently there will also be voluntary layoffs. This has been announced in France. Under a cost savings plan called Arrow, Renault wants to cut staff numbers in support services such as human resources, finance, and marketing by 15%. The cuts are expected to lead to around 3,000 job cuts. And apparently, Renault has confirmed it is considering cost cuts, but has not said how many people will actually be fired. Given the uncertainties in the automotive market and the extremely competitive environment, we confirm that we are considering ways to simplify our operations, speed up execution, and optimize our fixed costs, a Renault spokesperson said. At the end of 2024, Renault employed 98,000 people worldwide. So 3,000 is not a huge number, but what is a huge number is Nissan and what Nissan has done to Renault. Renault reported in July an 11.2 billion euro first half net loss. That's a $13 billion net loss, including a $9.3 billion write-down on Nissan. So Nissan is the biggest reason that Renault is in trouble. But remember, basically Renault, they wrote down Nissan by 10 billion, their losses in Nissan, and they didn't just lose 10 billion, they lost 13 billion. So they lost an additional $3 billion. In other words, they are losing money on their operations currently. And they own a fair bit of Nissan. So they're probably going to lose even more money because Nissan's not going to do well. Nissan's not going to somehow magically survive. It is going to go the way of the dodo. In other words, it's going to go extinct. Excluding the write-down, their income plunged to 461 million, less than a third of the year earlier level. Due to, this is what Nissan say, a weaker van market, costs associated with electric vehicles, and commercial pressures in a more competitive environment. New CFO Francois Provost, who was appointed in July after Luca De Meo left for Gucci, needs to restore margins, get Renault's credit rating back to investment grade. So this is the other problem. Banks are saying, we see you as a risk now. Your credit rating is no longer investment grade. That's an issue. That means their financing is now more expensive. And then Renault also said they need to find ways for the automaker to deal with the impact of US tariffs and intense competition from Chinese car makers. In other words, US tariffs are hurting Renault and Chinese competition is hurting Renault. And basically Renault is in between a rock and a hard place with these issues. Then add to all of that, Nissan is piling on from the top with their losses. That Renault is just going, well, when are these losses going to end? Really. And clearly, even though Renault has massively reduced its stake in Nissan, it still owns a lot of the company. It's true, yes, Nissan reduced its stake very intelligently from 43.4% of Nissan to 15% in early 2023. So basically, they still own 15%. Now, when Nissan do go bankrupt, as they will, that will mean Renault will incur enormous losses. How will this affect Renault's balance sheet? No one really knows the extent of this. We can make assumptions and guesses, but the truth is it's going to hurt them regardless. Now, if you're a company, you're already losing money, you're getting pinched on one side from China, Chinese EVs, Chinese everything, which is rising incredibly quickly. You're getting pinched on the other side by US tariffs, and you're losing money on your cars in general, plus you're making unknown losses of write-downs in Nissan. Creditors, will they look to Renault? Maybe, potentially. So, is it true that Renault's in trouble? I think it is. In fact, I'd say absolutely. What are your thoughts? Thanks for watching. Nissan says it's got a game-changing battery. It will change the company. It will basically save the company. Now, you guys know what I think of Nissan. You know that I believe that Nissan will be purchased most likely by companies such as Geely. Who knows? Maybe BYD will even purchase them. Maybe not. I mean, maybe they won't need to or even want to. I mean, realistically, Nissan, they're not really a name. They're not really that desirable anymore. To be honest, when you say BYD or Nissan, what do you think? Well, what car would, in terms of brand, what would you prefer? I know what I'd prefer. That's definitely BYD. Well, Nissan's new battery, they're saying it's going to be available by 2028, but journalists, they don't actually believe them. Journalists are saying, give us some proof, show us this battery, show us what you're doing, give us a time frame, what are your plans, how are you going to do this? And Nissan, well, they don't want to provide an answer. They don't want to provide any real facts. They did kind of, in a fishy way, say what I'm about to share with you. But I don't know. Guys, do you believe this stuff? I mean, does this make sense? Does this sound like Nissan's being honest? I don't think it does. I can clearly see a lot of journalists don't think it does either, but they kind of can't go out and blatantly say this because Nissan pays the bills. Legacy Auto pay the bills still. That could change. Nissan say they're committing to a launch of battery EVs that will basically save the company by reducing costs by 50%. I mean, really, is a solid state battery going to be 50% cheaper than a high energy density lithium ion phosphate version 3 Shensing battery from Cadel that'll charge in 10 minutes? I mean, I don't really think that's going to be likely, but Nissan say it will. And they say that these solid state batteries will be, well, they'll have a factory producing potentially a huge number of them. Now, that factory has not yet been built, I should point out, but this is Nissan's roadmap. They have pilot line operations. They say they have a pilot line. In fact, they say that they've had a pilot line since 2022, but the actual operations of the pilot line won't begin until this year at some point. They haven't begun yet. A test prototype car will be on the road in 2026. So for some reason, they're saying they've had a prototype battery. They've actually made this solid state battery, which they won't show to anyone. They're saying they've had this since 2022. They won't show it, like I said. They're saying that their pilot line was built in 2022, which I presumably built this battery, but the pilot line, operations won't start until this year. A test prototype car will be on the road in 2026. Now, my question is, if they have these batteries, or if these batteries will be produced this year, why wait till 2026 to actually test them in a car? I mean, if you're betting the company on a product, saying this will save the company, surely as soon as you have the battery, which is presumably since 2022, you'd want to test it straight away. You'd want to have this in your car straight away, right? You'd want to go, oh, phew, like it does work. Yeah, okay, great. But they're not going to do that. They're going to wait 4 years to test it in a car.